Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It is just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review Superman, aka, I guess, Superman Legacy? And honestly, I'm so glad that they just changed it to Superman because the title Legacy, I don't think, had any type of relevance to this movie. I don't understand why they would call it Legacy. I think that it's really weird because it doesn't connect to anything in the movie whatsoever. So it's weird to think they ever even thought about calling it that to begin with. But before I get to the actual movie, let me start off by saying I think that James Gunn still is wrong to be in charge of the DC universe. I think that he's a great director for the most part, and I think that he does have a very strong vision for his movies, which I have said time and time and again that nowadays one of the biggest flaws of modern movies is that the directors do not have their own vision, or the studio doesn't let them have a vision. And so what you end up with are these weak cardboard movies. They're flat, they're ugly, and they don't have any type of heart to them. They don't have any type of substance. All that they have is committee, decisions like, oh, is this movie for all four quadrants and stuff like that. And so James Gunn is a really good filmmaker in the way that he has a vision. Unfortunately, sometimes I think that his vision is a little weak, and it's a little just kind of juvenile sometimes, to the point of where I'm like, ugh. I'm really not a huge fan of Guardians of the Galaxy 1. I think that the second one is really, really good, but still, it kind of lacks something. And then the third one, I hate it. The more and more I think about it, I just can't stand the third one because it was promised to be like this epic conclusion to the Guardians, and instead, it felt like a Rocket Raccoon spin-off movie, and it felt like they should have made another one to end off the Guardians as a whole. So, yeah, that's what I think of that. And I know I sound really mean, but I'm just being honest. I don't like the third one. I don't like the first one that much, but the second one I actually really like. And I will also say, I think that the Suicide Squad is still his best superhero movie. I loved the Suicide Squad. I didn't like the part about Harley Quinn, that whole side story where she gets married to the dictator guy or whatever, and I didn't like that at all. Mostly because I'm sick of Harley Quinn, and I'm sick of her being like a Deadpool type of character, and I'm sick of Deadpool as well. And but still, I would say the Suicide Squad, it's the darkest of all his superhero films, and it's also, for me, it was the most emotional, and I think it was the best in every way, shape, or form. And I didn't even see that movie in theaters. I watched it at home on my TV on HBO Max. So that's saying something. And so going into Superman, I was kind of lukewarm about it. I was really worried that maybe his style would really take away from the characters in the movie. And I was worried that it would be stupid and bad. And that's just being 100% honest. And I know that sounds funny. I was worried about a movie being stupid and bad, but I'm serious. And I was also worried that maybe he would try to overcorrect for the awful Zack Snyder movies and that terrible universe. And to be honest, you kind of felt that a little bit, but for the most part, it just kind of felt like this is a guy who wants to honor the comics. And that's what I was most surprised about this movie, is that there was so much stuff about the movie before it came out, so much back and forth There were the leaks, which that was unfortunate. They did leak the whole plot of the movie months ago, and I did look at the leaks, which I shouldn't have done. But I didn't think they would actually be real. And to be honest, I just thought, these people who do this kind of stuff, like they leak the plot of Superman, they really need to go away, because they're just the worst kind of people. And they made the discussion around this movie so toxic, and they really kind of drowned out my excitement for it, because it felt like, these people are critiquing and nitpicking every single little thing about this movie in a way that, like, they would never critique anything about, the movies that they like by Zack Snyder. They would never admit, like, oh, I didn't like that, but I loved it overall. But, like, you have me here saying, look, I don't think James Gunn is the greatest. I think that I don't think that his vision, his style, fits all of the DC universe. I think it only fits certain projects. But I'm kind of up and down about it, again, because the big thing about this movie was that it felt like a comic book movie. And this is what I was saying, by the way, all the way back in December of last year, after I watched the first ever teaser trailer, which came out on my birthday, which was really cool. Hashtag December 19th. And I hope if they do that again this year, that would be kind of hilarious. Like, every year on my birthday, they always release, like, the worst movies. And then, so maybe instead of that, we could get, like, a great trailer on my birthday every year. That would be kind of cool. But, like, yeah, this movie, it felt like the comics come to life. And it reminded me a lot of Lego Batman 2, which that video game was very, very comic booky and in the best possible way. And also, it reminded me, they really tried to humanize Superman and make him relatable. And, at the same time, he is still that Boy Scout character that the Snyder fans can't stand and can't handle, even though that is the character. That is the actual character. But it reminded me a lot of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies. Now, I will say, Sam Raimi, he was a little bit more focused with his movies. This movie, one of its biggest issues is that it needed to focus more on the actual Superman characters. Superman, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Cat Grant, Perry, Lex Luthor, Eve. They needed to focus more on those characters and not focus as much on, like, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, the Justice Gang, Metamorpho, like these characters that are like, they're side characters, but they kind of take away from Superman in this movie a little tiny bit. And I think that it's because James Gunn is really, he's used to making movies about teams. And he's used to making movies where, you highlight all these different characters instead of just focusing on the one, which is kind of funny because if you guys remember, when I reviewed Guardians 3, I said that, like, Star-Lord, he was the star of the show. It felt like a Star-Lord movie with a story about Rocket Raccoon. But in this movie, it felt like a movie that just happened to be around Superman. Whereas, there was a lot of focus on these side characters, which I was worried about. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible, but it is something to be aware of. And another issue that I had, because overall, I love this movie. I think that it's probably one of the top 10 to top 5 superhero movies I've ever seen. And so even though I am criticizing it like an honest critic would, if I had problems with it, which I had a couple of things that I'll talk about here, but I still think, like, this is an impressive movie. This is an all-timer. This is a movie that it did so many things right, and it was hard to not like it. Like, there were certain points in the movie where I was kind of like, ugh, that wasn't right, or that didn't work for me. But then there were the highs, the high points of the movie. They were so high. I had a huge smile on my face the entire movie. And I've never had that happen with a movie before, ever. Maybe one or two movies in the history of movies. So that's how good this movie made me feel. And it was so, so good when it was good that, the little things that I didn't like, they're not as bad as they would be if the whole movie was not very good. So that, if that makes any sense. By the way, I am having ice water. I know that it kind of sounds funny. I'm like, it's been an exhausting last couple of days. Like, I have this little cold now. I have kind of a little sniffle. And yesterday, I was out door dashing for 7 hours so that I could, reach the specific goal. And last night, I had to finish watching Man of Steel. That's another thing I did. Was before I watched this movie, I decided to watch Man of Steel again, so I would kind of be primed up to hopefully enjoy this one, since I knew it would take it in a different direction. And wow, Man of Steel is just so bad. It's so horrible, and it does such a shitty disservice to the characters, especially Superman. And it was like sitting in, it's like being in a room full of people who don't like you, and you're just forced to sit there and just for hours and hours and just think oh God, this is so awkward. That's what that movie is like. It has not aged well, and it really, really made me, kind of ready to see a good Superman movie. Because that is the only other Superman movie I've seen. But I've also seen Smallville, and I will say, I love Smallville. It was one of my favorite shows growing up, and Allison Mack, she was my biggest childhood crush, which has not aged well, but she was very attractive back then, and she is still very attractive, and yeah. And so anyways, one of my issues with this movie, though, is that right off the bat, I don't know if this was just my theater or what, but some of the text was cut off the screen. In the first image, they have a caption that says, 3 million years ago, metahumans came to Earth or something. Metahumans appeared on Earth. And that caption, it was kind of cut off the top of the screen. And some of the captions were kind of hard to read because the screen was, the color grading was so light and it was so washed out that the light, text, it was hard to read. And there was also a shot where Lex Luthor, he's it's the first shot of him in the whole movie, and he's at the window, and there's the sunlight that comes in, and it looked very weird, you could hardly see anything on the screen, and I do not have vision problems, so, I was kind of okay, those two things, but the big issue is that this movie, there's no setup. There's no setup and there's no build-up to the things that go on. It just starts right off in the thick of things, and it doesn't give you a chance to get to know these characters in this universe. It just throws you into things. And I didn't like that because it the whole entire first hour, it felt like I was playing catch-up. Because they had to do all this exposition dialogue. They had to slow down and say, oh yeah, these are these characters. And some of the dialogue in this movie, it was literally just spelling out the movie and spelling out the characters. Like how I talked about in Dora Part 2. And it was all because they didn't do a proper setup at the beginning of the movie. So that you got a chance to, kind of gently go into this universe. Instead, it's just like you're thrown in there. You're thrown into the Superman world. And it's like, screw you if you can't catch up. And so the whole first half of the movie, though, you just feel like you're playing catch up, to where it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of interesting for like a movie that's starting off a cinematic universe, to make the audience feel like we missed a first movie. Like, that's what it felt like. It felt like we missed the first Superman movie, and this is a second Superman movie. And so I didn't like that. I thought that was probably the biggest issue that I had with the whole movie, because this movie was only 2 hours or so, and honestly, I wanted more. Like, I would have gladly sat through a 3-hour Superman movie, no questions asked, especially if it was this Superman. So I think that's something to say. And, one second, guys. I have something stuck in my tooth. 1 second. There we go. I'm gonna take a little review break. I'm just kidding. I'm chewing a piece of gum and I had it stuck in my teeth and I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird. It just like melded to my teeth. It was bizarre. But anyways, let's talk about the cast and the characters. Number one, I gotta say, recently I've talked about a big issue that we've had with modern movies, is that female characters are not allowed to look like women anymore in modern movies. Usually they make them look like men, and they have to act like men, they have to be like men, and they're not allowed to be attractive anymore. But in this movie, it is definitely the opposite. I mean, every single female character in this movie is a 10. Even Ma Kent, she's a 10 because she's got heart, and what's inside is just as good as what's on the outside. And so, but number one, in terms of all the characters, I just wanted to say that really quickly, is that this was one of the few modern movies where women are actually allowed to be attractive and look like women. So that's a big win. That's a big win for women, and it's a big win for films. I think that's great. So first off, let's talk about Superman. A lot of people said that he's whiny and he yells all of his lines, but it's not completely true. And I think that, again, it's kind of like it's a big misrepresentation, because you just think about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. He did a lot of crying in that movie because he lost his Uncle Ben. So honestly, it was totally reasonable that he would cry as much as he did in that movie. But when people talked about his Spider-Man, all they would say is like, all Spider-Man does is cry, and he doesn't make any jokes. But you go back and you watch that first movie, he makes a lot of jokes. It's just that they're more clever, and they're not really like he doesn't like go over the top. But like that first joke that he made, like, that's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you? I mean, that is an all-timer joke. And that is a great line in a superhero movie. And so the fact that, it just shows, people will misrepresent anything in a movie if they have interests in the movie failing. And I think that people who don't like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, they had an interest in him failing. And so they said those types of things like, he cries too much, and he doesn't make any jokes. They said that on purpose. They said it just because they don't like him. They didn't say it because they genuinely believed it. And so it's the same thing with this Superman, in that this Superman is my Superman. You know why? Because when he saves people, he cares about them. He cares about people. He cares about squirrels. He cares about animals. This is a Superman that cares. This is a Superman who goes out of his way to save people. His whole being is devoted to helping people in a way that, like, Zack Snyder's Superman, he was basically like a horrible monster and like a cold-blooded serial killer terrorist. And it was like, he even said at the end of Man of Steel, like, I will be Superman for Earth, but only on conditions. And it's like, no, fuck you. You don't get to make conditions, you piece of shit. And so, this Superman, though, he is not like that, where he's like, I will only help people if you let me have my conditions. It's like, no. He's very, very sweet, old-fashioned, and he's so likable. And he gets put through the ringer in this movie to the point of where, it's a wonder that he survived his own movie. It's a wonder that Superman survived his own movie. Because they put him through hell. And I love that, because we need heroes who get put through hell. We don't need Captain Marvel and, quote-unquote, black girl magic, where, there's no struggle at all. And it's just like, they're girl bosses. They can do anything because they're women. We need characters who actually get put through something, who get put through a struggle. Like the people in Thunderbolts, they got put through a struggle through that whole movie. That's why that movie was so good. The Superman in this movie, he was very similar to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I still would say I like Tobey Maguire better, but that's because that movie, we did get a proper build-up. We got to see the whole origin. We got to see all the stuff that we needed to see. This movie, everything. We did not get to see any proper build-up or setup. It was all just there. And you had to like it, or else you're not going to like the movie, because it's just already there. It's there. Okay, so let's talk about Lois Lane. She's really hot. And I will say, I was right from the trailers. I said she is exactly like Lois Lane, and she is. She plays the character to a T, and, she's got great chemistry with Superman. And that's one thing that I'll say, though, is that I wanted to see more romance between them. I guess they talk about in the movie, like, they're not boyfriend and girlfriend, they're just seeing each other. And I don't know if that really works with Superman being like a old-fashioned guy. Would like an old-fashioned Superman really like hook up and participate in hookup culture with this woman? I don't think so. I think he'd have to date her and then, proceed to hook up with her. But I didn't like that. I think that they should have had a lot more romance, because the romance really worked well in this movie. That's for damn sure. And it's really refreshing, because they would never have romance like this in a Marvel movie. Ever. Because, it's opposite of their agenda. They don't want romance. They want women to be strong and independent and not have boyfriends or husbands. And so, they would never show relationships to the point that they did in this movie. And so it was very refreshing to see like an on-screen romance, because, it's like, they don't want to show that in Hollywood movies anymore. They want women to be men, and they want men to be subservient to women. And it just shows. And so this movie, it really fought against all that stuff. And that's another reason why you guys should like this movie, is because it really did have old-fashioned values, the good old-fashioned values that we desperately need back in this world, including just one about kindness. And just, again, the way that Superman cared about people, it was really, really infectious. and it was really hopeful. Like, this was a hopeful, positive movie. It was a movie that we desperately needed, and I wish that they would make more hopeful movies like this, instead of making movies that are miserable, like Zack Snyder's Superman movies. They sucked. They just sucked so badly. And then let's talk about Lex Luthor. Honestly, he was kind of underdeveloped. I think that, but basically the whole movie, this is not a spoiler, because they showed, that's another criticism I have, by the way, with the marketing itself. They showed this entire movie in the trailers. They really show way too much. Way too much. They showed all of the best action scenes in the trailers. They showed all the best shots in the trailers. They didn't hit as hard because, the movie, you got to see the scenes play out and you got to, feel the emotion that they wanted you to feel. But the trailers showed way too much of this movie. But Lex Luthor, he spends this entire movie in this fucking computer room in Luthor Core. It's so hilarious. Like, he's just... the whole movie, practically, this guy, he's just, like, in this one computer room, and he's just, like, massaging his employees and saying... He has memorized combos, like fight combos, to tell other people how to fight Superman. And so, like, he's just like, E5 to 7B, 9Y. And it's like, God, Lex Luthor would be the most brutal Battleship player of all time. I mean, I want to see Lex Luthor play Battleship in prison. James Gunn, if you're listening to this review, if you're listening to this review, can you make Lex Luthor play Battleship with, like, another iconic villain in his jail cell? Like, have it be like where the Joker is in another cell and they're playing Battleship together. That would be so funny, and it would fit so perfectly. But anyway, like, I just thought that was so funny. Like, he memorized... They said in the movie... Because I remember I said a lot of the dialogue in the movie, they really try to spell things out for you like you're kind of stupid. And they said that he memorized 2,000 combos. Lex Luthor has memorized 2,000 fight combos. Like that... like... And that's what you really feel from this Lex Luthor, is that he is the biggest hater of all time. He is such a hater. You can just feel the hate oozing off of him. Just like, it's insane. But I wish that he would have been a little bit more evil and dark. There were a couple of scenes and moments where he got pretty dark and he had this kind of evil quality to him, but I wish that they gave us more, because the best parts of this movie, the most emotional parts, all of them got through way too fast. They just went by way too fast for us to even, like, register them. So there's this part where Lex Luthor does something to someone else, and it involves a secret room that the person is hiding in, and that's not a spoiler, but to just say, like, I wanted more of that, because you really saw this guy is evil. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. He is really stupid sometimes. He is so filled with hate that he can't see, like, how bad his actions are and how the consequences, it doesn't register with him. And so he'll do anything to kill Superman. He'll do anything. And so I wish that we could have seen some more evil, cold moments. I heard that they cut a shot from the movie where Ultraman kicks Crypto, Superman's dog. And I really think that's a shame, because it's like, why are you cutting a shot of a villain doing a villainous thing? You know, like, that's kind of stupid, and that's kind of weak need. And let's talk about Crypto. So I thought Lex Luthor was good, but not great. I think that the actor, you know, he is one of my favorite actors. I would definitely love to work with him someday. But I still think that Michael Rosenbaum is better, because he had more to him, and he had more time, and he just was more evil through and through and colder. Whereas this Lex Luthor, he's just the biggest hater on the face of the earth. But Crypto, I was really I was really worried about Crypto too, because I was worried that he would be like, just like that stupid gimmick character where it's just, he's just there to sell toys. But honestly, he was a crowd pleaser type of character for sure. And I really liked him. I really liked Crypto. I loved how James Gunn modeled him after his own dog. And I thought it worked so well for the movie. And that's another thing too, is that it really felt like James Gunn added a lot of personal touches. And the movie did feel very personal, like it was from the heart, even more so than other movies that he's made, other superhero movies. But, yeah. And then, let's see. Jimmy Olsen was awesome. I thought that he was really good. I loved his relationship, his back and forth that he had with another character. And speaking of, Lex Luthor had a girlfriend in this movie named Eve. And I thought that she was great. You know, she was really, really, I think that she was kind of underdeveloped, too, because she was kind of like Daphne and Scooby-Doo a little bit, in that it felt like people underestimated her, and I really wish that she had gotten more. And I hope that I really hope that she gets a better circumstance than she had in this movie, you know, because it doesn't seem like she's a bad person, which is what I thought. Maybe since she's Lex Luthor's girlfriend, I thought maybe she'd be horrible. But she's actually, really, really sweet. And so, yeah, I like her a lot, too. And there's also something that I wanted to say that I loved about this movie. This is the most anti-Israel Hollywood movie that's ever been made. It is so anti-Israel. It just hits you over the head. Literally, at certain points in the movie, characters get hit in the head with the anti-Israel messaging. And I think that that's so great that finally there's a Hollywood movie that shows Israel for what they really are and what they really do to Palestine. And so this movie, it is 100% a full-on Free Palestine movie. You know, because the whole movie centers around this conflict between these two countries, and one of them is invading the other country so that they can take over and just kill everyone there, like how Israel is doing. They're occupying Palestine and just committing mass genocide every single day. And they're also, you know, quote-unquote, America's ally, which, you know, just like Israel, Moravia is a terrible ally, and they don't really show that they do anything for America, except for say that they're their greatest ally. And so in the movie, they actually, you know, they make sure to say that Moravia is America's ally, and Superman did this with America's ally. And it's funny because, you know, at first I thought maybe they're trying to make a Russia-Ukraine allegory, but it was very clearly Israel-Palestine. because of stuff like that, by saying the ally thing. And then near the end, there's also a line that I think the piece of shit war criminal Netanyahu said in real life. I think that the character in this movie that's supposed to be him, his stand-in, he says something that he actually said in real life, I think. And I remember someone saying it, and so, or it might have been a congressman. It was something about, like, I hope that, like, they drown the streets they paint the streets with the blood of Palestinians. An actual U.S. congressman, I think, said that. And so they had a similar line in this movie. And so I thought that was a very interesting choice. And it just was great. And I thought that it was so satisfying to finally see Israel shown for what they really are in a movie, in a big Hollywood movie. Because it's like James Gunn had balls for doing that. I mean, there is no remember that there's this whole controversy by the retards on Fox News and Nerdrotic and retards like them about the whole immigrant thing with Superman. There is no agenda about immigrants in this movie. It is all about Israel and Palestine. And it is so good. And it's so funny because with those people, it completely went over their head because they're so stupid and dumb, and they're so, brain rotted, that they couldn't even fathom that this movie is about Israel and Palestine. And so, yeah, I love that. And let's talk about the Justice Gang. Okay. Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, he is the best Green Lantern that I have ever seen. And I say that because, Ryan Reynolds, he's a piece of shit in real life, as is his disgusting wife, but he has done a lot of damage to the Green Lantern brand over the years, because he is just constantly bad-mouthed that movie, even though he was involved in it, and in fact I think he helped write it. And so it's just sickening to see him bad-mouthing that movie just every single chance he gets. And I hate it when actors do that, because it comes off as so disrespectful and unprofessional. And this character, he was very goofy. He had a bowl cut, and he was just kind of a big jackass, and he was very self-centered. But somehow, this Green Lantern, he is the best Green Lantern I've ever seen. And he really, he saved the reputation of this character, who, it's really sad, because I think that Green Lantern, I would love to see, like, his own movie. Like, I would love to see a Green Lantern movie. And, I thought maybe we wouldn't get to see that because of all the damage that Ryan Reynolds did with his constant childish attacks on his own movie. And, so I liked him. I did not like Hot Girl. That's Isabella Merced. She's really good in certain ways. She's very attractive, but her character was really, really underdeveloped. And her one power was that she screeched. And I didn't really even understand what that did or anything about that, because they didn't even really bother to explain it in the movie. But she was one of the few characters that I explicitly did not like. And then I loved Mr. Terrific. I mean, he was awesome. This movie was basically half a Superman movie and half a Mr. Terrific movie. He was just so cool, and he was treated with such dignity and respect, and he had probably the second best action scene the whole movie. And he was effortless. Like, it was like he was born to play this character. And so I think that that's cool. I mean, they took characters in this movie that, like, I've never really seen before, and or at least I've never seen, what other people have done with them, and they did a really good job, or James Gunn did a really good job at adapting them into this world and making me want to see more. And I will say, too, for a long time, they would do these solo superhero movies, and people would ask, well, where's the other superheroes? Oh, this is a Spider-Man movie? Where's Iron Man? Where's Green Lantern? I mean, not Green Lantern. Where is Hawkeye? Where are the other heroes? Constantly, that was pointed out as, like, the biggest flaw of, like, a Thor number 1. Where are the other superheroes? Well, I feel like James Gunn with this movie, he tried to fix that. He had all these other heroes in the movie, and this is what happens. The movie feels like there's too many characters, and it feels like it should have been longer because there's a lot of characters in this movie. And then let's see, who else? Well, Metamorpho, he's pretty cool, but he needed more to him. Like, it felt like I did not know his character at all. And I looked up, and his character, he seems to be really, really interesting. And he has this really kind of, like, tragic story, almost like a universal monster. And we don't really get to see that in this movie, and I wish that we did. Because I think it would have enhanced his character, at least, and the movie overall, I guess. But yeah, I'm tired, guys. Sorry. It's been a long week, a long couple of days, and I still have to prepare for filming next week, which I'm not really looking forward to, just because I'm so tired right now. I'm so worn out, and so I apologize for making a few mistakes in this video. Whatever, my by the way, this is a good time to mention before I finish up the review. I did a Man of Steel review. It is over an hour long, and I released it on Gumroad.com. I have just recently opened up a Gumroad page, and basically it is a place where you can buy clips, like videos and clips and stuff like that, or packs of videos, and for very, very low prices, like $1 to $10 per item. And so my very first review product is a Man of Steel review. And if you like my reviewing style, which a lot of people don't, people used to say I sound like I'm retarded, or I sound like I'm drunk or something. And then other people, they say that, like, I don't even do a review. I just have a stream of thought. Well, if you don't like my reviews, then, you don't have to buy this. But if you really, really like my reviews and you want to continue supporting me in all types of ways, then please feel free to go on over to Gumroad, to my page. I will link the video in the description, and please, check out my review of Man of Steel. It's pretty good. It's kind of interesting. I get a little, I get a little over the top in the review, and yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a fun review. Probably not my best review, but it's still a really good review. So, anyways, let me take a drink of water. I guess the one other character, Ultraman was cool. He was a pretty good villain. He wasn't really like a big character, but he was a good villain for who he was, and the engineer, I thought that she was kind of cool. I wish that her character was explored more. She was also very underdeveloped. I think that she was really interesting. And she was really also another tragic villain. And I really wanted to see more about her. I was really, really interested in her character, not just because she was really hot, but because she was very interesting and had an interesting, like, motivation and story. And, yeah. But anyways, overall, the movie got better and better as it went along. I think that the second half is where this movie gets really good. So it's kind of interesting because it's the opposite of, Man of Steel, where, I thought that the best part of Man of Steel was the Krypton sequence at the very beginning of the movie, and then it was all downhill from there, whereas with this movie, I thought that the first half was the worst part of the movie, and that the second half was very much a standout. And Superman in this movie, I mean, it's insane. I mean, he's definitely not a Superman that you would want to mess with, because, like, yeah, he is human. He's not human literally, but he is humanized. And he does have moments of weakness. But the thing is that characters who are weak sometimes, they're the ones that you really got to be scared of, because they're the ones who, when they get focused, when they get their motivation back, they kick ass. And they're the ones who are the most badass heroes, not the ones who, they're just constantly, badass and strong, and they can't have any bad things done to them. Like this character, though, there's a point to where all of a sudden he gets his Superman powers back. Well, he gets his mojo back, and it's from that point on, you would not want to fuck with his Superman, and he's pretty unstoppable. I mean, this is a Superman who is young he's not even in his prime yet. He's not even prime Superman, but he still is incredibly cool and, again, feels unstoppable. But anyways, my favorite part of the movie is probably the final act where everything comes together, because it feels like James Gunn set up all of these things to be paid off, and he pays everything off in this movie in a perfect way. I think that everything that he paid off in this movie, it was so satisfying, and it just left you feeling like, not only do I want more from this DC universe, but I also want to go back and watch this movie again, because it was such a fun ride, and it was such a great blockbuster. Like, this movie is what I want from a blockbuster movie. This is the definition of a summer blockbuster movie. So yeah, I like this movie. I didn't have very many criticisms about it, and yeah, I can't wait to see it again. Safi still needs to see it, and I don't know if she's going to like the movie as much as me, because one of her biggest criticisms in movies is when they do this type of thing where they just kind of throw you into things and expect you to, catch up with the characters and basically fill in the story yourself. And you do have to do a lot of that in this movie, to where you don't really get, like, welcomed into the movie very well. There's also a very controversial choice that they made in regards to Superman's origin. And this is the funny part, is that, James Gunn said that he doesn't want to show the origin of Superman. He doesn't want to show any of this stuff. But it was such a different interpretation that I felt like, well, you better show that stuff at some point, because this is not the characters. This is not Superman, this little story point right here. And I don't even want to say what it is, because it might turn you off from even wanting to see the movie. this certain choice that they made. But thankfully, it really didn't bother me that much at all. I wish that they had done a little bit more to explore it, because again, everything in this movie felt like it needed more. It needs more time, more development, and I wish that it was like 3 hours, because I think then he would have had the time to, really, really, develop everything. I mean, probably. I mean, I don't think you could do very much more with the story that he did in this movie in 4 hours or more. Like 3 hours would have worked better for me. Especially since it was the whole introduction to this universe too. And, honestly, at least he did a good job at making me want to see more from this universe, because, now I'm looking forward to the other projects, even though I haven't seen trailers for them or anything. I don't know about Peacemaker Season 2, because I do not like Peacemaker at all. I don't like John Cena. I was really looking forward to the Peacemaker show at first, based on the Suicide Squad movie, but the show is so goofy and stupid that I really, really don't like it. So, yeah. That's unfortunate. But anyways, overall, in terms of food, it's tough. Because I'm not going to say that the first half of this movie is bad. Even though I had those flaws, of like, it didn't feel like it was properly set up, I still would say overall, pulling back, this movie as a whole is fantastic. And pun intended there. And so in terms of food, this is like spaghetti and meatballs. Now, spaghetti is my favorite food, but usually I don't like having spaghetti and meatballs. So, spaghetti and meatballs, I don't think it's as good as just having spaghetti with meat sauce and then Italian sausage. But whenever I do have meatballs and spaghetti, if the meatballs are really good, I'll still really enjoy that spaghetti. So there was actually this spaghetti that I got last year. I got it from this pizza place that I really wasn't expecting it to be great, but it's probably some of the best spaghetti that I've ever had. And it was that good. And it was shockingly good. And to me, that's what this movie was. It was kind of surprising that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because I really wasn't looking forward to it as much as I really wanted to. I wanted to like it, but the way that, everything about the movie was nitpicked, and it felt like even James Gunn was kind of, vulnerable to the nitpicking, because he changed things based off of the Snyder cultists, and it just the whole build up to this movie was very negative, and it wasn't as positive as it should have been. And so that's why I'm thankful that people saw it early at the Amazon screening and they all gave it really positive reception, because now all of the positive reviews are drowning out the negativity and the toxicity that comes from the Snyder fandom. And, honestly, this movie, I hope it makes $1 billion, because it deserves it, truly. Like, Thunderbolts was really good, but it had some things about it that were, you could tell, very modern types of things. And, I think that this movie, the way that it promoted and showcased old-fashioned values and old-fashioned ideas in such a respectful way, because usually whenever you see movies about the 50s or about the past, it's always under this very evil and judgmental, like, satirical lens of like, oh, the 50s were terrible, marriage is terrible, families are terrible, all of that was terrible. and, you know, people weren't happy, women weren't happy, they were slaves and all this crap. Well, this movie, it's like, yeah, we don't need to go back to the 50s, but we do need to bring back a lot, and I mean by a lot, I mean like 90% of the values from the 50s. The kindness, the respect, the hope, the positivity, all of that stuff feels alien now with all the movies that they make, all these shitty products that they make where, like, you know, like they're just miserable movies. And like Man of Steel, ew, 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 ew. So glad that this movie was made, and so glad that DC is back. I can't wait, because I'm a DC fan again now. I am a DC fan. I'm so excited to see some DC movies, TV shows. All of them aren't going to be good, but that is the same as it is with anything. You can't just have like a perfect, you know, it's not going to be a perfect run. But I'm really excited to see what I think is going to be the prime DC movie TV universe go on. I am a little interested in what they're going to do with Batman, though, because they have that, you know, Twilight Boy Batman in his shitty movies. And I wonder how they're going to do with Batman, because unfortunately, Andy Muschietti, who did the shitty-ass It movies and The Flash, he is doing Batman. And, ew. I do not even want to see that at all. I am so not excited for that. And so I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that they actually do a good job with Batman, but I am not excited. I'm not excited at all for Batman. But other than that, I think the thing that I'm most excited for is the Green Lantern show, or a possible, if they made a Mr. Terrific movie, or they also said they're going to make a Jimmy Olsen movie or a TV show. That's kind of interesting. I mean, I would like to see that, I guess. I mean, I'd be interested to just see like what the story would be, because, you know, he is a side character. You know, he's not a main character, and but it is really interesting because he's like a reluctant ladies' man, and it's just really, really, really interesting the way that like it feels like such an odd character. And that's another thing. It felt very, very old school, like 1950s, to twist that character and make this like, you know, like I think from my belief, my knowledge, my limited knowledge, he's not like that in the comics, and he's usually like this nerdy guy, and so it's just really funny that they made him the way that they did, because I would never have expected that, you know. So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought about Superman, and then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon. I can't wait to relax now. I'm so tired and exhausted from the past week. So goodbye, everybody.